He does make a very serious point about the threats posed by China and the threats posed to his constituents and all of us in that. That really is the central message we should be trying to get back to, of how the government, how cross-party we can work on it, and how with CPS, etc., we can all work to make sure this kind of thing can never happen again.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Until the statements published last night, some of us had no idea about the details of this case. But the government appears unwilling to answer 3 questions, Mr. Speaker, that have been asked repeatedly in this chamber. So can you kindly help me ascertain how we get answers to them? The first is proof that for the 14 months the CPS asked, the DNSA at no point spoke to any ministers or National Security Advisor. Why, when the Prime Minister was informed the case would collapse, that he did not do everything in his power, and evidence that he took any action at all. And why, if the government is so disappointed the case collapsed, why to this day there have been no repercussions for the Chinese Communist Party, despite the government in power having every tool in their box to make clear that we will protect this House, this democracy and this country.
Can I just say, I can't prolong the UQ. What I would say is, and I know the Honourable Lady well, she won't leave it at that point of order. What I do know is that she will go and use all the options that are open to her, and I'm sure that she'll be coming back in not too far a distant time. A point of order, Tom Tugan. Now, who's not going to keep this debate going?
I'm going to raise a different argument, Mr. Speaker, if I may. Given that the government's position is that the bureaucrats run the government, the bureaucrats are in charge of everything, may we dissolve this House and save the taxpayer the money? Because clearly this isn't a democracy anymore.
I'm sure the honourable member doesn't want to give up his seat quite so quickly. Right, let us move on.
Mr. Speaker, she's clearly not a lawyer or a leader. Mr. Speaker. The problem for her is I do actually understand the law. I know what's got to be proven. I've also looked at the evidence. Which was put in under the last government in relation to this case. There was a meeting in September. That did not involve the National Security Advisor discussing the evidence in any way, nor, Mr. Speaker, one further piece of evidence. The final statement in this case was submitted in August 2025. There was no further submission of evidence, one way or the other, after any discussion in September. This is a red herring, a completely scurrilous allegation made by the Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has now twice directly contradicted the words of his Security Minister. They cannot both be right. The chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee couldn't get any answers from the Security Minister. The CPS said that they were satisfied that the decision to charge the case in April 2024, not August, in April 2024, was correct on the basis of where the law stood at that time. This is a matter of fact. It is not a matter of what the previous government had thought. It is not a matter of it not meeting a legal test. It did. Something must have changed when the charges were brought and when the case collapsed. The charges were brought under us. The case collapsed under them. Can the Prime Minister tell us what changed and what collapsed the case?
Mr. Speaker, I've said I will publish the witness statements in full. The whole House will then see exactly what was set out in 2023 in the substantive witness statement and exactly what was set out in the 2 supplementary witness statements, and she will then realise what she's just said is entirely baseless.
May I start, Mr. Speaker, by saying very briefly quite how this feels? My home has been broken into, my files have been ransacked, somebody has been put in my office by a hostile state, and 2 parties are playing politics with it. This is national security of the United Kingdom. The elected people of Tunbridge chose me. They may have chosen wrong, but they did. The elected people of other parts of the United Kingdom chose everybody else in this House. It is up to them to choose who represents them. And yet here we have 2 individuals seeking to extract information from us. And the government's response is not, as mine was, do everything you can to make sure the prosecution works, but no, process. Well, who the hell's side are you on? This isn't about the bureaucracy, this is about leadership. We're not sent here to be civil servants, we're sent here to lead the country and to make decisions. And instead, and I feel nothing but fondness for the Minister in his place, and I'm very sorry that he's been sent out on his, not quite first outing, but pretty close. It is on his first outing to defend the indefensible. Because what he's got the position of doing now is to effectively say that he's not a politician, he's a bureaucrat, there's nothing he can do, and frankly, he shouldn't even be here in the first place. Because that seems to be the Prime Minister's line. Yeah. Former Attorneys General have got up and they have prosecuted on the state's behalf. This Attorney General and this Prime Minister have said, not on my watch, not worth the effort.
Can I thank you for that? And just say I have huge respect for him, even if that evidently isn't mutual at the moment. But let's see if we can get to that place. Look, the Prime Minister answered the question yesterday. I can see, I do fully appreciate how personally this affects him and how personally affects his constituency and indeed his office as well. I do understand that. I'm genuinely not trying to play politics in this. I'm genuinely trying to tell. I see his eyes raised at that, but I'm genuinely not. And I'm genuinely trying to tell the story of this, of how.
And words I have longed to say in this House for a very long time. The surviving hostages are free. Yeah. The bombardment of Gaza has stopped. Yeah. And desperately needed aid is starting to enter as a result of the peace plan led by President Trump. We have the chance, and it is a chance, to bring a terrible chapter in history finally to a close. Mr. Speaker, it's a moment of profound relief for this House, for this nation, indeed for the whole world. But it is tempered, of course, by the knowledge that for the hostages and their families, for the loved ones of those killed on October the 7th, and for the innocent civilians in Gaza, the dead, the bereaved, the starving, this has been 2 years of living hell. I think of Avinatan Orr, who has family ties to the United Kingdom, returned at last to his family and to his girlfriend, Noah. Avinatan and Noah were taken from that music festival 2 years ago. The footage of their abduction, filmed by Hamas, evil, committed to camera. I've met Avinatan's family and heard for myself the agony that they suffered for 2 long years, waiting for him to come home. His frail condition, shocking evidence of the appalling treatment he must have endured. Mr. Speaker, we await the release of the deceased hostages. Those families need the chance to grieve, and so we demand that they return to their families immediately. Mr. Speaker, my thoughts are also with the people of Gaza, almost all of whom will have lost family members, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, and of course, worst of all, sons and daughters. Over 20,000 children killed. I think of people like Yara Yagi, who I met a year ago, 17 years old. She was studying at college in Hertfordshire. She had lost 44 members of her family. 44. A pain that cannot be erased, even as we welcome the peace today. But, Mr. Speaker, mercifully, the killing and destruction has now stopped, and aid is beginning to enter Gaza. But, to be clear, we urgently need to see more aid and faster. All restrictions must now be lifted. The need for food, sanitation, healthcare and shelter are still acute. While the signing yesterday was historic, what matters now is implementation and getting help in as quickly as possible. The UK is providing £20 million in additional humanitarian support to get water, sanitation and hygiene products to tens of thousands of civilians across Gaza. That is in addition to the support that we're already providing. Our 2 field hospitals in Gaza have already seen 600,000 patients. And earlier this month, Mr. Speaker, we evacuated the 3rd group of sick and injured Palestinian children to the United Kingdom, and they are now being treated by the NHS.
Whoever would like to start, really. How effective do you think Arab's law, do you expect Arab's law be to prevent social tenants from being left in hazardous conditions that harm their health?
I mean, it's Arab's law. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of parents in the past, and There are definitely many benefits to it. I think it's really, really important, in fact, but the massive question is how it's going to be enforced. And when it was first suggested, I certainly believed, and I know the sector did, that it was going to be implemented in its entirety. We now know it's going to be phased in over a number of years, which, I'll be honest, I wasn't happy about, considering the volume of people that I'm dealing with in terms of living in poor conditions. But it fundamentally, for me, comes down to enforcement and how it's going to be funded. Because if it's not, then unfortunately it's not going to be worth the paper it's written on. At the moment, there's no dedicated funding for enforcement. No proactive inspections or monitoring, meaning landlords may delay action, undermining the law's effectiveness. And my huge worry is around funding, especially for local authorities, because they will be dipping into their HRA in order to pick up for, costs for this. And costs are soaring for local authorities, income is falling, and councils can't plug the gap. In January 2025, there was a report that found 91% of councils expect their HRA to be in deficit within 5 years without reform, meaning mounting debt, worsening homes, and they may have to consider selling stock or stop building altogether in order to balance the books. I mean, funding for this, and not just this, but the Renters' Rights Bill, is not an optional extra. It's something that has to be done if it's going to be effective. And if it's not, ultimately it will jeopardise the ability for councils to deliver new homes and undermines the government's ambition of building 1.5 million homes. But first and foremost, for me, it comes down to the health and safety of residents, and I worry that it's not going to do or go as far as it needs to in order to tackle the issue and the mounting issue that we are facing around conditions of homes that people are living in.